Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse, Part 2, Chapter 4, By the River. Siddhartha wandered through the forest, far from the town, and knew only one thing, that he could not go back, that this life he had led for many years was over and done with. He had drained it, had drunk it to the dregs, to the point of disgust. Dead was the songbird he had dreamed of, dead was the bird in his heart. He was deeply entangled in samsara. He had sucked in death and disgust from all sides, the way a sponge sucks in water until it is full. He was full of surfeit, full of misery, full of death. There was nothing left in the world that could lure him, that could delight him, that could comfort him. He yearned to know nothing more about himself, to find peace, to be dead. If only lightning could come and kill him, if only a tiger could come and devour him, if only there were a wine, a poison that could bring him a stupor, bring him sleep in oblivion and no more awakening. Was there any filth with which he had not soiled himself, any sin or folly he had not committed, any spiritual bleakness with which he had not burdened himself? Was it still possible to go on living? Was it possible to inhale breath again and again and exhale breath, to feel hunger, to eat again, to sleep again, and to lie with a woman again? Was the cycle not exhausted and completed for him? Siddhartha reached the large river in the forest, the same river across which a ferryman had once ferried him when Siddhartha had been a young man coming from Gautama's town. He now halted at this river, stood hesitantly on the bank. Fatigue and hunger had weakened him, and then why should he go on? Where to? Toward what destination? No, there were no more destinations. There was nothing but his deep, painful yearning to shake off this whole wild dream, to spit out the stale wine, to end this woeful and shameful life. A bent tree hung over the river bank, a coconut tree. Siddhartha leaned his shoulder against it, put his arm around the trunk, and gazed down into the green water, which kept flowing and flowing beneath him. Gazing down, he felt entirely filled with the wish to let go and go under in this water. In the water a dreadful emptiness mirrored a fearful emptiness in his soul. Yes, he was at the end. Nothing was left for him but to snuff himself out, but to shatter the failed formation of his life, toss it at the feet of snickering gods. This was the great vomiting he had longed for, death, the shattering of the form he hated. Let the fish eat him, this dog Siddhartha, this madman, this foul and fetid body, this exhausted and misused soul. Let the fish and the crocodiles eat him. Let the demons dismember him. With a twisted face, he stared into the water, saw his face reflected, and he spit at it. In deep fatigue, he loosened his arm from the tree trunk and turned slightly in order to plunge in a sheer drop, to go under at last. Closing his eyes, he leaned toward death. But now, from remote regions of his soul, from past times of his worn-out life, a sound came flashing. It was a word, a syllable, which he lulled unthinkingly to himself, the old initial word and final word of all Brahmin prayers, the sacred Om, which virtually means the perfect, or the completion. In the instant the Om touched Siddhartha's ears, his slumbering spirit suddenly awoke, and it recognized the folly of his action. Siddhartha was profoundly frightened. So this was the state he was in. He was so lost, so forlorn, so forsaken by all wisdom that he had sought death, that this wish, this childish wish, had grown in him to find peace by snuffing his body. What all the recent torturing, all sobering, all despairing had failed to do was effected by the moment when the Om pierced his consciousness. He recognized himself in his misery and his vagary. Om, he uttered to himself, Om, and knew about Brahma, knew about the indestructibility of life, knew again about all the godliness he had forgotten. But that was only for an instant, a flash. Siddhartha sank down at the foot of the coconut tree, laid his head on the root of the tree, and sank into deep sleep. Deep was his sleep, and free of dreams. He had not known such a sleep for a long time. Upon awakening after several hours, he felt as if 10 years had passed. He heard the soft flowing of the water. He did not know where he was or who had brought him here. He opened his eyes. He was amazed to see trees and heaven above him, and he recalled where he was and how he had come here, but it took him a long while to remember, and the past seemed veiled, endlessly far, endlessly remote, endlessly indifferent. All he knew was that he had abandoned his bygone life. In the first instant of awareness, it seemed like a long past incarnation, like an early pre-birth of his present ego, that he had abandoned his bygone life, that, full of disgust and distress, he had even wanted to throw it away. But he had come to his senses by a river under a coconut tree, with the sacred word Om on his lips, whereupon he had fallen asleep. And now he had awakened, and was looking at the world as a new man. Softly he spoke the Om to himself, the word on which he had fallen asleep, and his very long sleep seemed to have been nothing but a long and absorbed uttering of Om, a thinking of Om, a sinking and full merging into Om, into the nameless, the complete and perfect. What a wonderful sleep this had been! Never had a sleep refreshed him, renewed him, rejuvenated him so profoundly. Might he really have died, have perished, and been reborn in a new shape? But no, he recognized himself. He recognized his hands and his feet, recognized the place where he was lying, knew this ego in his breast, this Siddhartha, this obstinate man, this bizarre man. And yet this Siddhartha had been transformed all the same, had been renewed, had strangely slept his fill, was strangely awake, cheerful, and curious. Siddhartha sat up, and now he saw someone sitting across from him, a stranger, a monk, in a yellow robe, with a shaved head, and in the posture of reflection. Siddhartha gazed at the man who had no beard, no hair on his head, and after gazing only briefly he recognized this monk. It was Govinda, the friend of his youth, Govinda, who had taken refuge with the sublime Buddha. Govinda had aged, he too, but his face still had the old features. It spoke of zeal, of loyalty, of seeking, of anxiety. But when Govinda, feeling Siddhartha's gaze, opened his eyes and looked at him, Siddhartha saw that Govinda did not recognize him. Govinda was delighted to find him awake. Clearly he had been sitting here for a long time, waiting for his awakening, although he did not know him. "I was sleeping," said Siddhartha. "How did you get here?" "You were sleeping," replied Govinda. "It is not good to sleep in such places where there are many serpents and the forest animals have their trails. I, sir, am a disciple of the sublime Gautama, the Buddha, the Sakyamuni, and a number of us were pilgriming here. I saw you lying and sleeping in this place where it is dangerous to sleep. I therefore tried to waken you, sir, and since I saw that your sleep was very deep, I remained behind my brethren and sat with you. And then, so it seems, I fell asleep myself, I, who wanted to watch over your sleep. I did my duty poorly, weariness overwhelmed me, but now that you are awake, let me go so that I may catch up with my brethren." "Thank you, Samana, for guarding my sleep," said Siddhartha. "You disciples of the Sublime One are friendly. Go now." "I am going, sir. May you always be well." "I thank you, Samana." Govinda made the sign of parting and said, "Farewell." "Farewell, Govinda," said Siddhartha. The monk halted. "Excuse me, sir, how do you know my name?" Siddhartha smiled. "I know you, O Govinda, from your father's hut, and from the Brahmin school, and from the sacrifices, and from our joining the Samanas, and from the hour when you took refuge with the Sublime One in the grove of Jetavana." "You are Siddhartha!" Govinda exclaimed. "Now I recognize you, and I do not understand why I did not recognize you right away. Welcome, Siddhartha! My joy at seeing you again is so great." "I too am joyful to see you again. You have been the sentry of my sleep. Let me thank you again, although I needed no sentry. Where are you going, O friend? I am going nowhere. We monks are always on the move, except in the rainy season. We wander from place to place, live according to the rule, proclaim the teaching, receive alms, and wander on. It is always like that. But you, Siddhartha, where are you going? Siddhartha said, It is the same with me, my friend, as with you. I am going nowhere. I am merely on the move. I am pilgriming. Govinda said, You say you are pilgriming, and I believe you, but forgive me, O Siddhartha. You do not look like a pilgrim. You wear a rich man's clothes, you wear a nobleman's shoes, and your hair, which smells of fragrant water, is not the hair of a pilgrim, not the hair of a samana. True, dear friend, you have observed well. Your sharp eye sees everything. But I did not say that I am a samana. I said I am pilgriming. And that is the way it is. I am pilgriming. You are pilgriming, said Govinda, but few pilgrim in such clothes, few in such shoes, few with such hair. Never have I met such a pilgrim, though I have been pilgriming for many years. I believe you, my Govinda, but today you have indeed met such a pilgrim, in such shoes, in such garments. Remember, dear friend, ephemeral, highly ephemeral is the world of formations. Ephemeral, highly ephemeral are our clothes and our hairstyles, and our hair and bodies themselves. I wear the clothes of a rich man. You saw that correctly. I wear them, for I was a rich man, and I wear my hair like the worldlings and sensualists, for I was one of them. And now, Siddhartha, what are you now? I do not know. I know it as little as you. I am on the move. I was a rich man, and I am no longer one, and I do not know what I will be tomorrow. You have lost your wealth? I have lost it, or it has lost me. It has gone astray. The wheel of formations turns swiftly, Govinda. Where is Siddhartha the Brahmin? Where is Siddhartha the Samana? Where is Siddhartha the rich man? The ephemeral changes swiftly, Govinda. You know that. With doubt in his eyes, Govinda gazed and gazed at the friend of his youth. Then he bade him farewell, as one does with noblemen, and he went his way. With a smiling face, Siddhartha peered after him. He still loved him, that loyal man, that anxious man. And how could he, in this moment, in this splendid hour after his wonderful sleep, permeated with the Om, not love someone and something? That was the enchantment that had happened to him in his sleep and through the Om. He now loved everything and everyone. He was full of cheerful love for anything he saw, and it seemed to him now that he had been so ill earlier because he had been able to love nothing and no one. With a smiling face, Siddhartha peered after the departing monk. Sleep had greatly strengthened him, but hunger now greatly tormented him, for he had not eaten in 2 days, and long past was the time when he had been hard toward hunger. With grief, and yet with laughter too, he thought back to that time. He recalled that he had boasted of 3 things to Kamala. He had been master of 3 noble and invincible arts: fasting, waiting, thinking. That had been his property, his might and strength, his solid staff. In the zealous, arduous years of his youth he had learned those 3 arts and nothing else, and now they had abandoned him. None of them were his any more, not fasting, not waiting, not thinking. He had given them away for the most wretched things, the most ephemeral things, for sensuality, for luxury, for wealth. His life had indeed been bizarre, and now, so it seemed, he had truly become a child person. Siddhartha thought about his situation. It was hard for him to think. He basically did not feel like thinking, but he forced himself. Well, he thought, since all these so ephemeral things have slipped away from me again, I am now standing again under the sun, under which I once stood as a little child. I have nothing, I know nothing, I can do nothing, I have learned nothing. How wondrous this is! Now that I am no longer young, now that my hair is already half grey, now that my energy is ebbing, I am starting all over again, like a child. Again he had to smile. Yes, strange was his fate. Things were going downhill for him. And now he stood again empty and naked and foolish in the world, yet he could feel no grief. No, he actually felt like laughing, laughing at himself, laughing at this strange and stupid world. "Things are going downhill with you," he said to himself, and laughed. And as he said it, he looked at the river, and he saw the river also going downhill, always wandering downhill, and yet singing and remaining cheerful. He liked that. He gave the river a friendly smile. Was this not the river in which he had wanted to drown once, a century ago, or had he merely dreamed it? "Peculiar is my life indeed," he thought. "It has taken peculiar detours. As a boy, I dealt only with gods and sacrifices. As a youth, I dealt only with asceticism, with thinking and meditating, seeking Brahma, honoring the eternal and Atman. But as a young man, I followed the penitents. I lived in the forest, suffered heat and frost, learned how to hunger, taught my body castigation. Prompt and wonderful in the teaching of the great Buddha, enlightenment came to me. I felt knowledge about the oneness of the world circulating in me like my own blood. But then I had to get away from Buddha, too, and from the great knowledge. I went and learned the pleasure of love from Kamala, learned business from Kamaswami, piled up money, wasted money, learned to love my stomach, learned to flatter my senses. I had to spend many years losing my spirit, learning how to think, forgetting, unlearning how to think, forgetting the oneness. It is not as if I, a man, gradually and very circuitously became a child again, as if I, a thinker, became a child person. And yet this way was very good, and yet the bird in my breast did not die. But what a way it was! I had to go through so much stupidity, so much vice, so much error, so much disgust and disillusion and distress, merely in order to become a child again and begin afresh. But it was my right. My heart says yes, my eyes are laughing. I had to experience despair. I had to sink down to the most foolish of all thoughts, to the thought of suicide, in order to experience grace, to hear Om again, to sleep properly again, and to awaken properly again. I had to become a fool in order to find Atman in me again. I had to sin in order to live again. Where will my way lead me now? This way is foolish. It runs in loops. It may run in a circle. Let it run as it will. I will follow it. In his breast he felt joy surging wonderfully. "Where," he asked his heart, "where do you get this merriment? Does it come from that long, fine sleep that did me so much good, or from the word Om that I uttered, or was it that I ran away, that my flight is completed, that I am finally free again and standing under the sky like a child? Oh, how good is this feeling, this freedom! How pure and lovely is the air here! How good to breathe! In the place I ran away from, everything smelled of salt, of spice, of wine, of surfeit, of sluggishness. How I hated that world of the wealthy, of the gluttons and gamblers. How I hated myself for lingering so long in that terrible world. How I hated myself, robbed myself, poisoned myself, tortured myself, made myself old and evil. No, never again, much as I like to do it, will I ever imagine that Siddhartha is wise. But this I did well, this I like, this I must praise, that I have ended that self-hatred, that foolish and desolate life. I praise you, Siddhartha. After so many years of folly, you again had an idea. You did something, you heard the bird singing in your breast, and you followed it." He praised himself, felt joy in himself, listened curiously to his stomach, which was growling with hunger. In these past few times and days he felt, thoroughly savored and spit out a portion of agony, a portion of misery, which he had devoured to the point of despair and of death. Now all was good. He could have remained with Kamaswami for years, acquiring money, squandering money, fattening his belly and letting his soul go thirsty. He could have gone on living for years in that gentle, well-cushioned hell, if this had not come. The moment of utter hopelessness and helplessness, that extreme moment when he had hung over the rushing water and had been ready to destroy himself. He had felt that despair, that deepest disgust, and he had not succumbed. The bird, the cheerful source and voice in him were still alive, and that was why he felt this joy, why he laughed, why his face beamed under his graying hair. It is good, he thought, to taste everything that one needs to know. As a child I learned that wealth and worldly pleasure are not good. I knew it for a long time, but I experienced it only now, and now I know it, know it not only with my memory, but also with my eyes, with my heart, with my stomach. Good for me that I know it. He pondered and pondered his transformation, listened to the bird as it sang for joy. Had this bird not died in him? Had he not felt its death? No, something else had died in him, something that had long yearned for death. Was this not what he had wanted to kill in his years of ardent penitence? Was it not his ego, his small, proud, anxious ego with which he had fought for so many years, which had always defeated him, always returned after every killing, outlawing joy, feeling fear? Was it not this which had finally found its death today, here in this forest, on this lovely river? Was it not because of this death that he was now like a child, so full of trust, so without fear, so full of joy? And now Siddhartha sensed why he as a Brahmin, as a penitent, had vainly fought with his ego. Too much knowledge had hindered him, too many sacred verses, too many sacrificial rules, too much castigation, too much acting and striving. He had been full of pride, always the cleverest, always the most eager, always a step ahead of all others, always the knowledgeable and intellectual one, always the priest or the sage. His ego had hidden away in this priesthood, in this pride, in this intellectuality. There his ego had taken root and had grown, while he thought he had killed it with fasting and penitence. But now he saw it, and saw that the secret voice had been right, that no teacher could ever have redeemed him. That was why he had to go out into the world, losing himself in pleasure and power, in women and money, and had to become a merchant, a dicer, a drinker, a grasper, until the priest and the samana inside him were dead. That was why he had to keep enduring those ugly years, enduring the disgust, the emptiness, the meaninglessness of a bleak and lost life, to the end, to bitter despair, until Siddhartha the sensualist, Siddhartha the grasper, could die. He had died. A new Siddhartha had awoken from sleep. He too would grow old. He too would have to die some day. Siddhartha was ephemeral. Every formation was ephemeral. But today he was young, was a child, the new Siddhartha, and was full of joy. He thought these thoughts, listened to his stomach with a smile, gratefully heard a humming bee. Cheerfully he peered into the streaming river. Never had he liked a body of water as much as this one. Never had he heard the voice and metaphor of flowing water as strong and lovely as this one. He felt as if the river had something special to tell him, something that he did not yet know, that was still waiting for him. Siddhartha had wanted to drown in this river. The old, weary, desperate Siddhartha had drowned in it today. But the new Siddhartha felt a deep love for this streaming water, and he resolved not to leave it again so soon.